Picture this. It's the early 20th century in Mexico City. And a towering figure strides onto the cultural and political stage. His sharp gaze, surveying a nation on the brink of revolutionary change. This man is José Vasconcelos, an intellectual titan whose philosophy would alter the course of Latin American identity forever, a man who dared to envision a pan-Latin American culture, transcending colonial legacies and racial divisions through education and art. Vasconcelos famously called this vision La Raza Cósmica, La Raza, or the cosmic race, proposing that the mixture of indigenous, European, African, and Asian ancestries in Latin America wasn't a problem to be solved, but a new superior breed of humanity destined to synthesize the best of all cultures. Imagine, for a moment, how radical this idea was in a world still obsessed with racial hierarchies and purity. He imagined Latin America as a melting pot of infinite potential, a cultural laboratory where diversity gives rise to innovation and beauty. But what makes this narrative so invigorating for scholars? As Latin American studies isn't just Vasconcelos' lofty idealism, it's the concrete ways he embodied and influenced this vision. As Mexico's Secretary of Education in the 1920s, he launched mass literacy campaigns, promoted muralists like Diego Rivera and David Alfaro Cetarios, and reshaped curricula to celebrate indigenous heritage and mestizaje, the very blending of races he championed. The walls of Mexico City became giant canvases telling stories of struggle, hope, and a shared identity forged in the fires of colonial conquest and revolutionary rebellion. Fast forward to today, and the legacy of Vasconcelos' cosmic race theory continues to spark debates. Contemporary Latin American scholars wrestle with questions his ideas evoke. How do we honor and reclaim indigenous epistemologies in a world still marked by neo-colonial structures? Can we reconcile the celebration of mestizaje with ongoing inequalities and the erasure of specific indigenous and Afro-descendant experiences? The tension between unity and plurality in Latin American identity remains unresolved, inviting us, academics, activists, artists, to dive deeper into the complexities. Consider also how Vasconcelos' thought ripples through other disciplines. In literature, think of the works of Octavio Paz, who grappled with Mexico's cultural dualities, or the magical realism of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, where the ordinary and the fantastic intertwine, reflecting a hybrid cosmology rooted in indigenous and colonial histories. In political science, his ideas feed into debates on postcolonialism and development. And in anthropology, researchers explore how local identities and global influences coexist and contest power. Why does this matter so profoundly? Because Latin America isn't just a geography or history, it is a continuously evolving idea. A dynamic space where identities are invented and help challenge and reimagine. The study of Latin American studies through the lens of figures like Vasconcelos and the rich, contradictory legacies they leave behind, invites us to journey beyond static categories, to embrace complexity and contradiction as sources of intellectual vitality. So imagine yourself poring over dusty archives or vibrant mural, decoding symbols that speak to centuries of resistance and creativity. Imagine untangling how cultural movements and political revolutions are inseparable threads in the Latin American fabric. This is not mere academic exercise, it's a profound exploration into how human societies construct meaning, how art and the politics merge to shape identities, and how the past relentlessly dialogues with the present. And here lies the thrill for any researcher. The field is alive with unfinished stories, unresolved debates, and pathways that crisscross disciplines. Embarking interdisciplinary adventure, the myth of La Raza Cósmica, the legacy of muralists, the pulsating rhythms of Afro-Latin music, the incessant poetry of women activists, or the persistent struggles for land and recognition, all beckon with their rich complexity. In the tapestry of Latin American studies, every thread you pull reveals another constellation of ideas and histories. This is the intellectual quest that awaits a labyrinth of culture, power, language, and resistance, illuminated by visionary thinkers who dared to dream a new world. Who will be the next to take up the challenge? To navigate and contribute to this ever-shifting mosaic, not just as observers, but as active participants in the ongoing story of Latin America.